Hey guys, we're here on the ground in Oxford, Connecticut with the D-Day Squadron. Thought I'd give you a little walk around tour of some of the airplanes here, and figured it'd be best to start with ours. Answer some of the most common questions we get when people walk up to our airplane, kind of let you see what kind of equipment we have. So we'll start up here at the front. Our airplane has two Pratt & Whitney R1830s. Both engines are now Dash 92 variants of the 1830. We started with, when we first got the airplane, it had a Dash 90 on the right side and a Dash 92 on the left side. But this past winter, we replaced the right-hand engine, and so now we have a matching set of Dash 92s. These engines are rated at 1,200 horsepower on takeoff. And one thing you'll notice about some of the C-47s is if you look at the profile of our blades, we have what are called paddle blades or climb blades. They're a little bit fatter, and they give us better climb performance, but we lose a little bit in cruise. So some of the airplanes we look at later in the week will have what are called needle blades, and those are more of a cruise propeller setup. If you look on the outboard side of each of these engines, this is our muffler or our exhaust system. This horn-looking item here is probably the single most commonly asked about thing on our airplane. That's actually the fresh air inlet for our heater system. This airplane does not have a Janitrol heater. It actually utilizes a heat exchanger from the exhaust and sucks in fresh air, and then you can mix it with cold air to get the temperature that you want with different spill valves throughout the airplane. Looking down along the wing, this fairly sizable flange you see here with just miles and miles of bolts, that's the wing flange where the wing is connected to the center section, and we actually had to do an AD compliance, a wing pull and inspection on that flange, and unfortunately we had to replace about half of those attach angles. We got a lot of support from that, both locally as well as in Chino and throughout the airplane community, and we were able to get that done. We pulled the wings ourselves. We had a shop in Chino help us, and then had a DC-3 guy in Florida help us with parts and jigs. If you look on top of our engine, you'll see a longer intake scoop. That was basically housed a desert kit, a filter for the sandy air in the desert. So that's one significant difference between most DC-3s and C-47s. The C-47s will have that extended inlet scoop. You look at DC-3s and they'll have a lot shorter intake scoop just at the front of that nacelle. We also regularly get asked about both our fuel load and how long we can fly. You can see two red caps there. We have an aux and a main tank in each wing. All four tanks hold 200 gallons for a total of 800 gallons on board. In cruise, we've been burning about 90 gallons an hour or so. So with a takeoff and climb, that's a pretty comfortable 6.5 hour flight. It's a 7-hour flight with reserves, and we've been cruising at about 150 miles an hour indicated. On our way across the country, we had some good tailwinds, and we were seeing anywhere from 165 to 180 knots over the ground. So that was a welcome surprise for us. We'll continue on here back around the tail of the airplane. All of our control surfaces have been replaced in the last the last 6 or 8 years. The rudder was actually the first control surface we recovered. That was in 2012. Both of our elevators, you can see they don't, the tent does not quite match the airplane. Those are both redone this winter, so those are freshly recovered. And our ailerons were actually done about 1.5 years ago or so. This airplane, on some DC-3s, you'll see more of a Stinger style tail cone. This tail cone was actually designed for towing gliders, and we actually still have the attachment features inside this tail cone to attach the tow equipment to tow gliders. Coming around this side, another difference in DC-3s and C-47s is oftentimes you'll see DC-3s with single air stair doors. The C-47 has the large kind of bifold cargo door. And people also ask regularly how the jumpers get out. And if you look at this forward opened cargo door, there's actually another door within that, a clamshell style door that actually opens inward. The two red handles at the top are the latches for it. And we can pull that door out while leaving the frame in place. And that allows the jumpers to have their exit without us having to open any of the big doors. We'll go on up and in. As we mentioned multiple times, this airplane was not ever in civilian service prior to the collector who acquired it from Israel, and then subsequently we acquired it from him. One of the notable things that people regularly comment about is the sign on our lavatory door, which is in Hebrew. It's a relic of the airplane's time with the Israeli Air Force. And we've been told that it, loosely translated, it says the only thing that can replace a Dakota is another Dakota. Through this little door back here is our Spartan lavatory. We basically have an evacuation tube and a pail back there, so there's not a lot of elegance. It's just the bare minimum. This airplane is still configured in the jump configuration. You can see we have jump seats folded down on the left-hand side. These are actually original wooden jump bench seats, which is also another fairly unique and uncommon characteristic of this airplane. Many of the currently operating jump airplanes actually have metal bench seats that replace the wooden bench seats that you see here. We still have, our airplane came back to us with the anchor line for static line jumping. Our jump lights in the back work. Everything for doing the reenactment jumps that we do was on the aircraft and functional when we got it. We didn't have to track any of that stuff down. We'll briefly walk in here into the cockpit section. As our airplane's a C-47, we do have a little radio operators area here with some original equipment. It gets pretty dark pretty fast in this area. Just one small window that's not good for looking at much because you're looking up into the sky. Looking over here is our navigator's area. You can see all of his instruments that he has there. And we actually still have the drift meter installed in our airplane that you can use and actually look down and see the ground and navigate with. Moving on forward into our cockpit. We operated this airplane the first 10 years or so that we had it with many of the original older military radios and intercom and everything. And we were fortunate enough this winter to get a avionics overhaul in anticipation of this trip. And it gets dark in here, but there's our new avionics panel. We've replaced all of the autopilot. That used to be a hydraulic autopilot, and now we've got our new radios, new intercom, which works phenomenally, and new transponder that made us ADS-B compliant. We'll head back down now and keep walking around the rest of the airplane. And we're back outside with the airplane. Another thing you'll notice is we have invasion stripes on the top of our wings. Many of the people who have been following our airplane probably noticed that when it came out of the paint shop in 2013, we actually had no stripes on the top of the wings, and our stripes only went halfway up the belly. That was accurate. That was an accurate paint scheme for this aircraft, which actually ended up over in Europe in August of 1944. So we didn't quite make the D-Day invasion, but we have added that paint scheme to the airplane for this event that we're going over for in a couple of days. Another recent modification of the airplane is if you look up at our leading edge, the leading edge looks the same as it always has. It's kind of a matte black look. But we did over the winter, while we were doing our wing pull inspection and flange update, we did remove the de-ice boots from the leading edge of the wing. We actually seem to have gained 5 or 6 miles an hour from that, and we also lost about 600 pounds of weight from the airplane by taking those boots off. And basically the function of those boots was they were kind of a rubber leading edge covering that were pneumatically operated, so when you started picking up ice you could pump air into them and they'd blow up a little bit like a balloon, and it'd crack all the ice off and try to keep the wings relatively ice free. And continuing on, we're back here now to the front of our airplane, and that's about all we've got for today. So I hope you enjoyed it. We'll keep walking around some of the other airplanes and taking note of the unique differences between all of these airplanes that look the same from the outside, but there's a vast array of different configurations and options that we've run into already on the field, and not even everybody hasn't even arrived yet. So thanks for watching. Continue to support us, and we'll talk to you again soon.